right, my friends, thanks for being with me today. J.R. Dukes at your service. I appreciate all of you taking time to hear about today's subject. I just hit the start button, so let me quickly make sure everything is going the way it should be going. And of course, if you have any type of comment whatsoever, please put it in the chat below. If you haven't done so already, please take time to introduce yourself and say a quick hello. Rosemary Fiera is already in the conversation. Rose, it's always a pleasure to have you in the chat. Thank you for being here today. All right, looks like everything's working on Twitch. Hello to everyone on YouTube, our friends on X. Of course, you can always find me right here on YouTube at JR Dukes, and on the X platform, it is simply at Reach JR Dukes. We're going to be drilling down today on this ongoing nonsense with the government. What is going on? Please, anybody have any opinions? If you do, put it in the comments below. Any type of audio issues, let me know. It looks like everything is working the way it should work, so it's working out pretty good. If you'd like to join the conversation, let me know, and I can send you a link, and you are always welcome to opine, join in on any conversation we have. We're going to go over today an article that I have in The Hill. We've been talking about, I don't know, about the last week, I've been saying, folks, it's time to end that nonsense, that craziness on the filibuster rule. Finally, people are starting to say, hey, maybe we ought to go ahead and end the filibuster rule. I mean, it's a self-imposed rule that we're going to talk about today. It's something that was made up by the Senate. It's not in the Constitution, so I want everybody to be very clear about that. This is a self-imposed 60-vote rule. And I think the short version is, with the Democratic Party being lost, I mean, I don't know a nicer way to say it. These people are absolutely lost. It's high time, my friends, that the Republicans stand up, put a stop to this nonsense, open the government, and pass Donald Trump's agenda. It's really just that simple. And I'm going to show you today that if we don't do it, sooner or later, the Democrats will. They have done this in the past, and they will. They will. Mark my words. They will do this in the future if we don't take the initiative and do what needs to be done. Remember this: the Republicans won. We won the Senate. We won the House. Of course, we won the presidency. Thank God that the American people sent us here to do a job. Now it's up to us to do the job. It's really not complicated. Even, as they say, a caveman can do it. So we just need to do it. All right, let's go ahead and start in on the program today. I've said right off the bat that I am J.R. Dukes. I'm your host, and of course, this is the home of the free-minded patriots. This is where the woke choke, the truth prevails, and the battles for your freedom are fought and won right here. You can always find me here on YouTube at J.R. Dukes, which is the intersection of justice and transparency. You could always find me on my website, jrdukes.com. So let's get into it. My patriot friends, the truth is coming out, and it's about time. Even The Hill, they have an online magazine of sorts, and of course they have their own YouTube channel. They are now reporting on what I've been saying for about a week or two now, and that is the Republicans are finally waking up and starting to talk about ending this ridiculous, outdated filibuster rule once and for all. And you know what? It's about time the GOP, the grand old party, grew a spine. This is because of this so-called fake gentleman's rule, this self-imposed 60-vote suicide pact that is nowhere in the United States Constitution. Nowhere. It is nothing more than a beltway parlor trick designed to protect the lazy, the weak, and the politically gutless individuals that unfortunately we have sent to Washington too often. And it is designed to protect these individuals from ever having to cast real votes or take real responsibility. Now, our founding fathers never said, they never intended, they never recommended, and they never put it in the Constitution to say, hey, you have to have 60 votes to govern. They knew that was ridiculous. They knew a simple majority of 51 votes was good enough, period, end of the story. Meanwhile, you've got a government shutdown right now, alive and active, dragging on into yet another week. I believe they left Washington, D.C. today, the senators themselves. They are not even planning on returning till next Tuesday. So we'll be well into the month of November by Tuesday of next week. Meanwhile, hardworking Americans are struggling to feed their kids. You have veterans waiting for checks, families hanging on while the Democrats play more political chicken. And somehow we're supposed to sit here and quote unquote respect the process. Give me a break. This is nonsense. The Democrats are leaderless, they're rudderless, and what they're doing is reckless. They are basically a political ship spinning in circles with no captain at the helm. I guess if you wanted to find a captain, it had to be someone like that Madami guy out of New York, who is obviously poised to be their next mayor. They've lost their moral compass, ladies and gentlemen. They have lost their discipline. They lost their minds. These are the same people who weaponize law enforcement. They glorify the chaos that's going on, and now they just sit around and watch Americans suffer just so they can basically score headlines on MSNBC. And of course, they're trying to support, if you will, Chuck Schumer and his failing Senate tenure. He's up for re-election, I think, in about 2 years. And he's frankly afraid of a challenge from AOC. And here is the kicker. They'll end the filibuster in seconds when it benefits them. They've done it before. And today I'm going to show you that they've done it before. I've got the videos to prove it. And they're going to do it again the minute they are back in power. They have done this, folks, just a couple of years ago when the Biden administration was in power, and they almost got away with it if it wasn't for one or two particular votes. They've said it out loud before. They've had it with certain rules as far as the 60 vote situation is concerned, the so-called filibuster rule, back, I think it was 2012, 2013, pertaining to judicial nominees. They got rid of the 60 vote rule. They simply said, hey, we're going to torch every norm if it happens to help our radical agenda. And of course, that's how we ended up with the Donald Trump Supreme Court that is solid and conservative, because I think it was 2017, you had Mitch McConnell that said, hey, we're going to follow the lead from our Democratic friends. They have did away with the filibuster, the 60 vote nonsense for their judicial nominees. And of course, we're going to do the same thing. So ask yourself, why in the world are the Republicans still clinging to this imaginary self-imposed rule that they are obeying? I mean, really, why? Well, the truth is the Republicans themselves are actually gaslighting the American people. They keep saying that if we get rid of the filibuster rule, it's all about fear. It's fear, ladies and gentlemen. And if we get rid of the filibuster rule, then when the Democrats come back to power, God forbid that ever happens. At least, God forbid it happening in their present condition of the Democratic Party. They are going to immediately grant statehood to the District of Columbia and the island of Puerto Rico. And they're scaring each and every one of us with this hypothetical. They're also trying to scare us with talk that the left will stack the Supreme Court. So what? But that's what they're scaring us with. They're like, hey, Joe Biden tried it. He tried to put 6 more judicial justices on the Supreme Court, 6 more liberals that they're trying to ram through so they can get through. Remember that green, that Green Deal scam? I call it the Green New Scam. And make no mistake about it, they came very close to cramming that through the Congress during the Biden administration. But guess what? I don't care. I do not care. I don't care if we have 52 states. The reality is we can't govern by fear of what might happen. Sooner or later, one day or another, the Democrats will get rid of the filibuster rule, and they'll justify it somehow. They're going to do just like they did before with what they did with the judicial nominees. They'll say that the Republicans have, quote unquote, lost their way, or that somehow we're radical, or that we're crazy. Sort of what they did with Donald Trump over the last 3 to 4 years with that lawfare nonsense. And then, of course, they're going to bring it to an end. They're going to kill that filibuster. And you know what? On some level, I agree with them. They should end this filibuster rule. It's nonsense. Folks, we cannot govern with this rule. And that's clearly evident by what's going on right now. I mean, let's face it, you have the Democratic Party literally holding the Republicans from governing. We're effectively a hostage. This is a hostage situation, and it's never been done before quite in this way. They basically expect Donald Trump to roll back his big, beautiful bill. And I got big, beautiful news for you. That is not going to happen. It's clear. It's the woke Democratic Party that's radicalized, the whole party, a party that is so lost, it's about to elevate extremists to positions of leadership, aka New York City. Really, you just can't make this up. And the bottom line is this: Donald Trump and the Republicans were put back in power to govern. No longer should they hide behind self-imposed gridlock. They were sent to Washington, D.C. to lead. And they need to seize this rare opportunity to make America great again, just like they campaigned on, just like they promised. Right? This is pretty straightforward. We can't let fear or political gaslighting stop us from doing the job that they were sent there to do, which is to govern this great country and get America back on track. I mean, Donald Trump, let's face it, he's busting it as hard as he possibly can. And now it's time for our friends in the Republican Party on both sides of Congress to do the same thing. Look, think of it this way. The worst case scenario, well, maybe one day we're going to have 52 states. I don't care. So what? We'll deal with it. We'll deal with it if and when it happens. If the Democrats pass their Green New scam, or if they pack the courts, hey, guess what? It's simple. When the Republicans return to power, we'll do the same thing. We'll either undo it or we'll match it. We'll stack the court with 6 more of our justices. It's really that simple. We will always fight back. We simply cannot accept their nonsense. We'll just reverse their nonsense. It's probably the easiest, quickest way to say it. And we will always keep pushing forward. That's the fight. That's what it's all about. We already have the numbers. We already have the mandate. We just now need the courage. President Trump was elected. Republicans were elected to govern, to lead, to finish what we started. The American people voted for the MAGA agenda: strong borders, fair trade, law and order, peace through strength, and an economy that serves the people, not the swamp. We must continue to drain the swamp. And right now, the only thing that stands between that vision and victory is the 60-vote man-made speed bump built by politicians who forgot how to lead. So here's the truth. It's time to end the filibuster, to hit the nuclear options, do our jobs, and get this country back to work. No more sitting behind these fake traditions. No more excuses. No more excuses. If Democrats want to govern like radicals, like crazy people when they're in power, fine. That's their business. But the Republicans better learn to govern with courage, with strength, and to make sure they carry out the will of the American people. We cannot sit back while the left strangles America with gridlock. We can't let bureaucrats and beltway buccaneers basically try to destroy our divine destiny that's ahead of us. It's time to lead. We need boldness, conviction, and the fire inside each and every one of our souls. Our founders built this republic on accountability, not comfort and not compromise. They gave us a simple formula. You win an election, you govern. You lose, you regroup, and live to fight another day. So to every Republican that's listening to me right now, every Republican in Washington, listen carefully, grow a spine, stop hiding behind a self-imposed rulebook the Democrats will burn the second it suits them. Do your job, support President Trump. Support his agenda. And for the love of God and country, nuke that filibuster and start governing like you mean it. The American people didn't elect cowards, they elected fighters. And that's what we need to make sure we become. And if we want to keep this republic, if we want to make America great again, we better act like it starting right now. I mean, it is not hard, folks. It's pretty straightforward work. Let's turn to the good book quickly. If we look at Galatians 6:9, we'll find in the King James Version, let us not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. So, Patriots, if we don't faint, if we don't fold, if we don't flinch, if we stand strong, we stay loud and keep fighting for this country, I'm confident we are going to be victorious. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of these articles and some of these videos that I've set aside to illustrate the very points that I've been talking about in this video. Hey, do you agree or disagree with me, my friends? I really want to know. Simply put it in the comments below. You can comment, this guy is a cuckoo. I don't agree with him. Or hopefully you'll see it a different way. But I appreciate your comments just the same. And while we're on the subject, if you're still with me, might as well hit the thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe so you know each and every time I have a video that comes out, you can make sure you are informed of when I go live or have a video. So let's see. All right, we got Stella. Thank you for joining us today. She says, I am from West Virginia, and I say, open our country up. So much is happening, it's hard to keep up. But I get PO'd Republicans. And act no more being scared of those blank Democrats. Do it. Amen. I agree with you 100%, Stella. And thank you for taking time to comment. I definitely appreciate it. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and let's start diving in to a few of these articles. And I have some other videos that I want to share with us, between us, so we can all kind of get a better understanding of what's going on and what needs to be done to fix it. And Stella, you and I are definitely on the same page with that comment. Amen to that. All right, here we go. The Hill. This was a recent article just in the last couple of days. And you can see the title right here. Republicans may go nuclear to end the shutdown. And this is just from a couple days ago. Again, it's interesting to me exactly. The fact is, we've been talking about this now, I don't know, what, the last week and a half? And finally, some people are starting to actually take this serious. Let's go ahead and let's just dive into this article a little bit. Something wicked this way comes. What was once a far-fetched fear is now looking increasingly plausible, even likely. The Senate Republicans will blow up the filibuster to end the government shutdown. Interesting. This would be the ultimate nuclear option. I'm sure y'all realize they call this the nuclear option because it blows up the rules and they go back to what the founders intended. So it has a dramatic name, and I guess it is rather dramatic, but it is so necessary. This would be the nuclear option, toppling the last major hurdle to single party rule in Washington by removing the 60-vote threshold for most Senate votes. The current Republican Party and any future Senate majority of either party would be empowered to ram its agenda through without so much as consulting the other party. I might add, this is what our founding fathers intended. That's the way it is, folks. You don't necessarily have to consult with the party that's not in power. Despite these dangers, Republicans are opening and entertaining it. Senator Josh Hawley said last week that he is, quote, not willing to see any children in his state go hungry over some Senate procedure. And, you know, that is an excellent point. Imagine this. The fun to feed people that are hungry, people that are, I think the phrasing I like is food insecurity, people that are not sure where their next meal is coming from. Yeah, that's bad. That's really bad. And the fact is, these people are going to have these problems starting in just a day or two because of some kind of obscure, self-imposed rule that the senators are trying to live up to. Ridiculous. sad, sick. And listen, folks, y'all that know me know I am not some bleeding heart liberal that thinks the government should pay for this and pay for that. But when it comes to food, especially food for children and single mothers, to give them the help, I really think that is a noble cause. And to allow children to be put in a situation such as this is really, really unfortunate. And I really pray that the Republicans wake up and see this for what it is. All right, continuing on, there are three reasons this scenario is becoming more likely. First, Democrats have no leverage. Exactly right. In any negotiation, leverage only exists when the other side wants something, and President Trump doesn't place a high value on reopening the government. To him, the shutdown is an opportunity to act unilaterally fire government workers and save money. Amen, right? That's why he said he won't even negotiate with Democrats until Democrats pass a continuing resolution to end the shutdown. Second, Democratic leaders view backing down as politically impossible. The far left already sees them as incapable of standing up to Trump, and they cannot bear the perception of losing this standoff right as midterm seasons kick off. In addition to that, we have an off-year election coming up this Tuesday, so it's kind of piling on. This is why Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, crying Chuck Schumer, has broken with longstanding practice by refusing to accept a clean continuing resolution, potentially creating the very conditions that bring about his worst nightmare, and that is Republicans ending the shutdown on their own terms, aka the nuclear option. Third, the real world impacts of the shutdown are about to get worse. Senate and local programs like food assistance and public health clinics will begin to shutter. The broader economy will suffer, and the issue with the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare subsidies, unresolved. Millions will see higher premiums. And my screen just shifted on me, but many will see higher premiums or disrupted coverage just as open enrollment begins. And I think open enrollment begins this Saturday on the 1st. As this happens, public pressure on the Senate will escalate, and the nuclear option may feel like the path of least resistance for Republican leaders. Amen, right? We can only hope. For his part, Senate Majority Leader John Thune vowed back in January that he would preserve the filibuster during his tenure, but notably, he has yet to reiterate that pledge during the shutdown. Trump has also stayed mum so far, but we know he pressured Republicans to drop the filibuster during his first term. Going nuclear would have devastating and permanent consequences. Once it has been removed, neither party will have any incentive to reimpose it when they take power. It goes on. The filibuster exists to force the Senate to be what it was intended to be, a deliberative body. I totally disagree with this part of the article, just to be straight up with you. Folks, our founding fathers, when they set up the Constitution, they did allow the Senate to go ahead and make up their own internal rules. I don't have a problem with any of that. But remember this, they never intended for the filibuster rule to be applicable to just common votes. They know 60 votes is a high threshold. That is the reason why they require a 2/3 majority vote by the Constitution only on very, very limited things. We're talking about impeachment. We're talking about treaties between one country or another. And the last area that they required is basically on constitutional amendments. And that's it. That's it. Everything else was designed by our founding fathers for a very straightforward and legitimate reason. And what is that reason? You see it going on right now today. It is so difficult to govern when you require what effectively is a supermajority, 60 votes. Even here in the great state of Florida, we have a lot of problems passing constitutional amendments here by the voters because they require a 60% plus one vote in order for a potential constitutional amendment here in the state to pass. We just had the legalizing marijuana. We already have medical marijuana here in Florida, but to show you, for example, marijuana that I believe it's just a recreation marijuana here in the state of Florida. I believe it got 58.5.6% of the vote, a very high majority, but yet just shy of the 60% needed. It's just very, very difficult. The last point on this article here is, and we're going to take a look at that next, this has been something the Democrats have been doing for quite some time, and that is trying to get rid of the filibuster every single opportunity that they have. So let's go ahead and let's switch over to the next little video I'm going to take a look at here, and then we'll pop back and forth. Here we go. Got a few videos to show you. First, I want to take a look at, here it is right here. This is, quote unquote, as we're going to talk about the nuclear option. This is back from January 19, 2022. The Democrats, when they were in power, got very close to getting rid of the filibuster. If they get back into power, God forbid, they're going to go for it, as I have been predicting. American Nana, I want to say hello. Hello, thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have you in the chat, American Nana. Thank you. All right, folks, let's take a quick peek at this together and let's discuss it. Remember, this is back from January 2022.
All right, finally tonight, some more breaking news. This is a big one. We told you earlier how Chuck Schumer joined Republicans to vote against the Voting Rights Act. That happened at around 9:30 tonight. Now, Schumer joined Republicans. It was part of apparently a nuclear option, and it was a plan to continue this, a nuclear option which it appears has just failed in the last few minutes. So Schumer knew he was going to lose the first vote, tried to play a trick to win again, and then they voted again on changing the filibuster, and that went down 50.
Imagine Chuck Schumer playing a trick 2-3 years ago. Ain't that something?
52 to 48. And this, it appears, I'm not a congressional expert here. I've had a real job my whole life, but it appears this thing could totally be over now. Moments ago, Biden tweeting out, just a few minutes ago, I am profoundly disappointed that the Senate has failed to stand up for our democracy. I am disappointed, but I am not deterred. We will continue to advance necessary legislation and push for Senate procedural changes that will protect the fundamental right.
So remember this that you see on your screen right now. This is back when X was Twitter. By the way, I don't have any thought in reality that President Biden actually wrote this himself, but snapshot this in your mind's eye every time you think that the 60 vote majority is somehow noble. They have tried to get rid of that for some time on their terms, and if they come back to power, they're going to try to do it again with everything that they have
to vote. So what that indicates is that as for now, this thing really is dead, that this trick that they were trying to pull did not work tonight. And now they're going to go back to the drawing board, or they're just going to say stupid stuff like that, and it'll probably...
Yeah, well, it's just a one-time fail, but they're going to try again. Here we have, this is June 30th, 2024, and sweet Nancy Pelosi, the description here says, quote, I support the Biden-Harris ticket. Hopefully, if we can get rid of the filibuster and get a bill passes with 51 votes instead of 60, we can accomplish much more as we go forward. You think she wants to keep the filibuster? I don't think so.
Well, I'm in my own place, and that place is I support the Biden-Harris ticket. I think they've a very successful presidency and vice presidency and have more to get done. And hopefully, if we can get rid of the filibuster and pass bills with 51 votes instead of 60, we can accomplish much more as we go forward.
All right. Once again, they're basically foaming at the mouth to do it. They're just itching to do it. It's going to happen. Now, ask yourself a question. Do you think that the Democratic Party has always been this way, that, hey, we can go ahead and shut the government down anytime we want, and we can go ahead and do it for any reason we want, and frankly, we don't really view shutting down the government as a big deal, as it's something that is necessary? No, of course not. That's not been their consistent message at all. Here is our former president, Barack Hussein Obama. He had a few words to say pertaining to any potential government shutdown. This was on Speaker Mike Johnson's X page on the 27th. He says here, the hypocrisy of the Democrats on the government shutdown they created is undeniable and indefensible. Watch former President Barack Obama, I like to say Barack Hussein Obama, lay it out. So listen to this with me.
You don't like a particular policy or a particular president? Then argue for your position. Go out there and win an election. Are some of these folks really so beholden to one extreme wing of their party that they're willing to tank the entire economy just because they can't get their way on this issue? Are they really willing to hurt people just to score political points? Republicans in Congress chose to shut down the federal government. Let me be more specific. One faction of one party in one house of Congress, in one branch of government, shut down major parts of the government, all because they didn't like one law.
Yeah, I agree totally. It's obscene. It should not be allowed. This is 2013 with our former fearless president. Let's hear this clip.
If Republicans do not like the law, they can go through the regular channels and processes to try to change it. That's why we have elections. So they can go through the normal processes and procedures of a democracy, but you do not threaten the full faith and credit of the United States of America. Shutting down the government just because you don't like a law that was passed, I have to say no Congress before this one has ever in history been irresponsible enough to threaten an economic shutdown, to suggest America not pay its bills.
You know, this part of the speech reminds me of one of them old country western songs. She can't say that anymore. In this case, he can't say that anymore because the Democrats are all too happy to shut down the government.
Just to try to blackmail a president into giving them some concessions. I will not negotiate on anything when it comes to the full faith and credit of the United States of America. We're not going to submit to this kind of total irresponsibility. Congress needs to pay our bills on time. Congress needs to pass a budget on time. Congress needs to put an end to governing from crisis.
Well, what do you think about that? Clearly, the Democrats, when they're in power, they have a completely different outlook on this situation, how things should roll, right? So we got to talk about Crazy Chuck. This is from today. I got to warn you, there's a cuss word or two in there. Whenever you hear one side start cussing a lot, you know that they're losing the argument. It's like the old expression, if someone's raising their voice or they're talking, shouting loudly, generally they're the ones up against the ropes, so to speak. So let's see what our friend Chuck has to say. This was on his X page today. It says Donald Trump is a vindictive and heartless man. Never before in American history has a president cut off snap during a shutdown, including Trump in his first term. But now he's manufacturing a hunger crisis to bludgeon the American people so he doesn't have to fix healthcare. Unreal. A quick point on this healthcare, in case you don't know it or we haven't discussed it. They want the Republicans to basically fix Obamacare, what's called the Affordable Health Care Act. The Democrats, when they were in power, could not get enough votes within their own party to make these cuts permanent. And folks, whether you like it or not, the truth is Obamacare doesn't work. It does not work. All it has succeeded in doing is allowing a bunch of money to flow to very few people who are becoming extremely, extremely wealthy on this government-run system. Of course, the premiums keep going up because it's mandated. You have to buy the product. The demand is extremely high, and they just keep running it up. And if the government's paying for it or offering subsidies, guess what? All the more the better for the people that own these healthcare companies. They're happy with the system we have. We can't keep spending like this. We're spending like drunken sailors on shore leave. The money runs out sooner or later. We already have a $38 trillion national debt. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always nice to help people with their healthcare premiums. It's always nice to help people with whatever, but we can't do all things for all people. And we definitely cannot do it from birth till grave. It just is not sustainable.
On Saturday, for the first time in American history, a vicious, heartless president is cutting off food stamps to hungry children, elderly who can't afford enough food to feed themselves, veterans who are down on their luck, all because he wants to use them as hostages so that Democrats will stop fighting for people's health care. We can do both, provide better health care and provide SNAP benefits to the tens of millions who need it. This president is a fucking liar. He says there's no
I apologize for that. I meant to bleep that out. I missed
money to provide food stamps because of the shutdown. That's bullshit. His own agriculture department said there's plenty of money.
All right, we'll go
Every
ahead
president.
Stop this video right here. You get the gist of it. Old Chuck is cussing it up today. You know, this heartless man. He's heartless. He's this. He's that. Don't be fooled. Don't be distracted. It is solely the fault of the Democrats, specifically old crying Chuck Schumer. Make no mistake about it. This particular sign in the back here, at this moment in time, of course, the ballroom is really the president's main priority. This shows you the gaslighting. Really, it's outright lying by the Democratic Party. When was that Caroline Leavitt said this particular quote, it was the context, as usual, is extremely important. She was talking about in relation to doing additional construction project on the White House grounds. The president said that the ballroom is his main priority, but you know how it is, folks. You cannot trust the Democratic Party today, which is a crying Chuck Schumer shame, if you will.
Know him. $300 million for his ballroom. In fact, his ballroom says that is his main priority. Can you believe that? You can't make this stuff up. Know him. $300 million for his ballroom.
It's just incredibly sad that they try to get away with that type of stuff. And you have to call it out. You have to call it out for what it is, which is complete and utter lies. These people have no shame whatsoever. This is from Hakeem Jeffries, the guy that keeps getting the sombrero placed on his head. House Republicans need to end their 5-week vacation so we can reopen the government and fix the healthcare crisis they created. Okay, whatever.
House Republicans have been on vacation for the last 5 weeks. This is extraordinary. Literally have canceled votes 5 weeks in a row. They shut the government down, then they left town, and now they're nowhere to be found. This is House Republicans in the middle of a government shutdown.
These people lie, and they just lie with a straight look on their face. I mean, it's really amazing how they can do this. And you never hear the so-called mainstream press call these people out on these lies and their hypocrisy. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a few rare clips where they actually do kind of take them to task, but it is few and far between. Here is our favorite Jeffries here going down the hall, and he does not look too happy, ladies and gentlemen.
Move away from traditional liberalism.
As Democrats, we believe in a strong floor and no ceiling. That in America, when you work hard and play by the rules, you should be able to achieve any level of success. There should be no ceiling to what you can achieve. Work hard, play by the rules. At the same period of time, there's got to always be a strong floor. That's anchored in things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, veterans benefits, and nutritional assistance. And unfortunately, Republicans are trying to destroy that floor.
Oh my goodness.
Several of your older incumbents got out.
Be impacted by SNAP cuts? How many New Yorkers?
Over 1 million New Yorkers are at risk of going hungry because of the Republican decision to weaponize hunger as part of their continued.
Oh man, you talk about hypocrisy. If you couldn't hear that, he's saying over 1 million New Yorkers, that's just New York alone, are at risk of going hungry because of the Republican decision to weaponize hunger as part of their continuing efforts to shut down the government. What a creep. What a creep. These people would actually allow people to go hungry, to have this food insecurity, to score political points. They have taken this Trump derangement syndrome to new heights. I mean, this is all these people could think about is we hate Donald Trump and we have to oppose anything and everything this man has done. This man has brought about peace all over the world. This guy works like a machine 24/7 for the American people, and they think they can simply close the government and hold the American people hostage. It's not going to work, Hakeem. It's not going to end well for these people. Believe this or not, this CNN reporter here, this Caitlin Collins, she actually was holding Jeffries accountable. I was just shocked when I saw this. So we have to play this clip here. But the bottom line is she catches Hakeem lying and pretty well lets him know about it straight up. She goes, you said that Mike Johnson isn't willing to sit down and have a conversation. He's like, yeah, he won't talk to me. And then in his next breath, he admits that they just had a phone call together. Again, you can't make this stuff up, but this is the reality.
You said that Mike Johnson's not willing to sit down and have a conversation. Y'all did have a phone conversation, I believe you said earlier today.
Ouch.
Who initiated that call? Was that you or was that Speaker Johnson?
It was a call from Mike Johnson. It was very brief, and it wasn't a substantive discussion in terms of finding a path forward.
But was he calling to talk about the government shutdown?
Ouch.
I mean, you could say that was in the ballpark, but, it was a private conversation that will remain private. However, nothing meaningful came out of it, again, because Donald Trump has not given Mike.
I like how when this Caitlin Collins, when she catches someone lying like Jeffries, if you noticed her eyebrows raised sharply when he has one of these answers that is just a bald-faced lie.
Mike Johnson permission to enter into a bipartisan negotiation. Caitlin, I mean, House Republicans have been literally on vacation for the last 5 weeks. They've canceled votes 5 consecutive weeks in a row. They are uninterested in doing anything other than jamming their partisan Republican spending bill down the throats of the American people. And as Democrats, we've made clear we will not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American.
What do you guys think is going to happen? Do you think there's any chance, and HELL, do you think there's any chance that Donald Trump, after working as hard as he's worked along with the Republican Party to get his big, beautiful bill passed, is there any way, under any type of scenario that you could possibly think of, that he's going to give back all of his wins from that big, beautiful bill? That he's just going to give the Democrats, hey, you have this, have that, here's a check for $2 trillion, whatever. Of course not. It's not going to happen, Hakeem. You're wasting your time. But folks, the shame of the Democrats has no end, has no bounds. Here's our honeypot guy, Eric Swalwell. This is the guy that had the Chinese honeypot that he ended up with, and I still don't know what type of secrets they were able to extort out of him. But let's hear his nonsense here. He has the gall to tell us, once again, it's the Republicans causing all this
Just
pain.
tell us what you're hearing from your constituents.
Oh, and by the way, I just have to say it. I forgot this lady's name on the left on MSNBC. Does she not always look like she just got back from a funeral or something? She just always got that pouty, crybaby face, and it just looks like, I don't know, like she's just one step away from jumping over the ledge or something.
People are hungry. People are struggling to pay bills. Nicole, I've found that one of the hardest things for anybody to tell another person is that they're broke or that they can't pay for their family's bills that month. And the number of people who have told me that in just the last week and a half, as the reality of the government shutdown and missing a paycheck has become a reality, as the reality of SNAP benefits going away and having to find other ways to feed your family have become a reality. It's crushing to hear that. Just today, I'm in DC today. I'll be back on the West Coast when it's obvious we're not going to be voting. But a federal officer pulled me aside today and said, when are we getting paid? And I could just tell.
Oh, what I meant to say is a federal officer pulled me aside today and said, do you realize you are sleeping with a spy? But that may or may not be true. I'm just saying, all right? And here's some crazy lady that is a representative, current representative in the House. She's from Albuquerque. Says just flew in from Albuquerque. Had to come down to see the White House myself. She's trying to mix the shutdown with the construction at the White House. You know how it is. You got these loony woke libs that are acting like the destruction of the White House is something from the end times. I mean, it's just complete nonsense. These people are always on the wrong side of history, if you notice. But let's listen to her babble for just a minute, and we'll talk about it. These people.
I just got off a plane from Albuquerque, and I had to come down and see it for myself. And I'm outside of the entrance, the security entrance to the East Wing, and the East Wing is literally completely gone. There's nothing left. From here, all you can see is nothing. Just from here straight to the
Makes you want to shed a
the house
tear, Nona. I can feel one hanging in my eye
They
right now.
managed to literally tear down the entire East Wing in 4 days. You know, and it's such a metaphor for what's happening right now.
Oh,
Our
these
democracy
people. Oh, my goodness. And here's our crazy purple-headed representative, the elderly purple-haired Congress lady who voted to shut down the government, says it's illegal to freeze the food stamps. Of course, they want President Trump, after telling him it's illegal, they want him to raid other accounts, basically other deposits of cash that's appropriated for something else. They want the president to now go take that money and pay for food stamps. In other words, they are starting to feel the pain from their own voters because real people are going to be suffering immediately. And of course, we're talking about the food shortage, or more exactly, the SNAP cutoff.
Of the Empowerment Control Act of 1974. The contingency funding that we set aside for SNAP is not optional spending. It is required by the law. We appropriated that money.
It's always funny how when President Trump takes the money or even pays our troops, they tell us how illegal that is, how he's committing some type of felonious activity or committing some type of felonious crime of some sort. But you get this crazy radical woke out of, what is she from? Connecticut, I believe. And somehow it's allowed in relation to food stamps that you can raid other accounts to pay the SNAP benefits. Again, these people are just complete and utter nuts. What else do you expect, right? Oh, well, moving on. Let me ask you, do you think it's hurting President Trump's poll numbers? All this that's going on right now, who do you think that they're holding responsible for what's going on, this particular government shutdown? I got a little hint for you. It is not President Trump.
Starting with Republicans. How has the shutdown seemed to have affected their political standing?
Yeah, you might think, given that the Republicans are in charge of both the House and the Senate, that a government shutdown might actually hurt the Republican brand. But in fact, it hasn't. If anything, it's been helped a little bit. Take a look here, the shift in net popularity versus pre-shutdown. When we're looking at the Republican Party overall, that brand actually up 2 points. That's within the margin of error, but clearly it hasn't dropped. Come over to this side of the screen. Look at the net approval ratings for Republicans in Congress. It's actually up 5 points since pre-shutdown. So what we're seeing here is the Republican brand in Congress has actually improved somewhat compared to where we were pre-shutdown, despite the fact that Republicans control. And that's the math that John Thune and Mike Johnson are looking at is, well, hey, why should we give, and electorally speaking, when our brand has actually improved a little bit?
Now, we say their position is getting better. With whom?
Yeah, okay, with whom? So I think it's two groups that it's so important to keep an eye on. All right, changing the Republican Congress's net approval rating versus pre-shutdown. It's rallying the base for sure. Look at this, the net approval rating up 12 points versus pre-shutdown. But it's not just with the base. It's also with the middle of the electorate. Look at this, among independents, it's up 8 points.
Folks, when you start losing independents, the Democrats have a serious problem on their hands, and they know it. Look, the American people, especially in New York City and some of these other woke places, they may do some crazy things. They may vote in for some crazy people, but they're not completely stupid. They know whose fault this shutdown is, and you can see right through it. Everyone can. All right, here's something from Dave Asman. Democrats have lost America's workers. It's getting worse. Teamsters President Sean O'Brien, flanked by VP Vance and Transportation Secretary Duffy, and they're backed by 1.4 million Teamsters demanding that Dems end the shutdown and sign the CR, the continuing resolution. This after government workers unions, 800,000 strong, demand the same. It is really a rough day for the Democratic Party and Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, when you lose the Teamsters.
Look, the bottom line, and we took a position, I represent 1.3 million working men and women in this country for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. We took a position 3 weeks ago. Pass a clean CR, get to the table, negotiate a deal. Do not put working people in the middle of a problem they should not be in there. And we got to think about the families that are going to be affected. Think about when you have to tell your son or daughter they can't play sports because you're not getting paid. Think about when you can't pay your mortgage. Think about when you can't pay your tuition. Put the politics.
Yeah, so that guy right there, that's the head of the Teamsters Union, 800,000 strong. When they turn against you and you're a Democrat, not good. Let's talk for a second about the actual food stamp program itself. You see why the Democrats in particular are very nervous and worried about this, because it affects disproportionately their constituents. So let's take a quick peek at this clip from Newsmax.
There are 42 million people in this country that need food stamps on a weekly basis. And we're saying people deliberately instead of Americans, because most of the people that are on food stamps aren't even from this country. 45% of Afghanistan immigrants are on food stamps, 42% of Somali immigrants, 34% of every immigrant from Iraq, 23% of Haitians, 59% of all illegal aliens are collecting food stamps, meaning that most of the people getting food stamps from the U.S. government and the U.S. taxpayer are not even Americans. Think about that.
Boy, doesn't that make your blood boil, ladies and gentlemen? You have the majority of the food stamps that are given out are not even going to Americans. They're going to illegal immigrants. Outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. It is really shocking what the Biden administration and their cronies have done to this country. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump, he's flying all over the world. I think he's on his way back to Washington as I speak right now. Hopefully, he's getting a little rest because he deserves it. He is kicking butt and taking names. Here he is, says, in a stunning act of goodwill, Japan's newly elected Prime Minister, Chechihachi, that's just a complete guess, by the way, is gifting 250 cherry trees to President Trump for his Washington, D.C. beautification project. Y'all may or may not know this, but those beautiful cherry trees, let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. See that picture right there on your screen? All them beautiful cherry trees right next to that lake by the Washington Monument. They're beautiful in the springtime, especially. Well, these were trees that were gifted by the Empire of Japan a long time ago. I'm not going to take a guess on the date, but it was definitely pre-World War II. If memory serves me right, it was at the beginning of the 1900s, but you can easily Google it as easy as I can. So the new prime minister, she's more like a female Japanese Trump, if you will. She's very conservative, ultra-right type of politician, and she's the first female prime minister of Japan. So there's a lot of firsts with her election victory. She's giving, 200 and some more trees to Donald Trump because she knows he's redoing Washington, D.C. in his image, so to speak. So amen to that. So let's listen to this for a second. This is pretty cool. And look at her smile. Man, she's just beaming in the presence of President Donald Trump. How about that?
We'll extend a gift of 250 cherry trees to Washington, D.C. In addition, I understand that fireworks from Japan, from Akita Prefecture, will be shown in Washington, D.C. on July 4th next year. We'll extend a gift of 250 cherry trees to Washington, D.C. In addition, I understand that fireworks from Japan, from Akita Prefecture, will be shown in Washington, D.C. on July 4th next year.
All right. So my understanding is, if I heard her correctly, she's also gifting a bunch of Japanese fireworks. Remember, next year is the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. 250 years. Isn't that amazing? I clearly remember, and I date myself by saying this, I clearly remember the bicentennial of the United States in 1976. The school made a real big deal about it, and I remember the word bicentennial. Wow, what a interesting, long, big word. It was quite something. Never really contemplating seeing the 250th year of our country's birthday, but amen to that, and God bless America, right? So that's more good news right there, and I'm happy for this prime minister. I'm happy for the people of Japan. They have been strong allies of ours for quite some time, and I wish her and her administration success going forward. Amen to that. There is a revival going all over the world. I mean, literally all over the world, as far as people moving to conservative politics, I guess is the best way to say it. They are tired of the invasion from all these outside individuals. I'm not going to go down that road right now today. Y'all know how I feel with all this immigration, especially this Muslim immigration that's coming in. It's just not a good thing. But here is a gentleman who's now the president of Argentina, who they consider the Argentina Trump, if you will. Just kind of interesting the way he's direct, he's forceful, he calls it as he sees it, and of course he's a good friend with President Donald Trump. Interesting remarks he made here, so let's listen together, and I'll try to translate if you can't read it there.
Al zurdo de mierda no le podés dar ni un milímetro.
Pero ¿me podés definir zurdo de mierda que no
Todos
lo
los que,
entiendo?
digamos, los colectivistas, los que ponen, digamos,
Yeah, this guy
al
gives it to
zurdo
him.
de mierda.
He goes, you can't give a blank for these left people.
No le podés dar ni un milímetro.
Pero ¿me podés definir zurdo de mierda que no
Todos
lo
los que,
entiendo?
digamos, los colectivistas.
She goes, what do you mean? Who's the left? He says, it's all collectives, all kinds of collectives. I'm going to let it play for a minute, and I'll give you the gist of it.
Los que ponen, digamos, o sea, esa idea. A ver,
¿Por qué le pones de mierda, digamos?
Porque son una mierda. O sea.
She goes, why do you call these people the S word? And he goes, because they are. I just love this guy. This guy is, it's going to be fun.
No,
pero
es que si pensás, pero si pensás distinto te van a aniquilar. Ese es el punto. Es decir, vos al zurdo no le podés dar un milímetro. Porque
I'm going to post this to my X account if you like to watch it in its entirety. Of course, that's at ReachJR Dukes. I think it's worth listening to. It has a caption at the bottom because obviously they're speaking Spanish. This guy here is going to be very good for Argentina. I just feel it. And he's direct about it. I mean, he puts it straight up. You cannot allow these left woke crazy nuts. You can't give them an inch. He puts it pretty bluntly. Good luck to him, right? We're talking about how the Republican Party is doing well in general under the tutorage of Donald John Trump. And here's some proof for you. The net voter party registration since the 2024 election. Republicans have been up in all months except for June. November, 372,000 additional registered Republicans. You can read it right there on your screen. All the way through. And as far as September, 84,851 total as of September on the bottom of the screen here, 1.393 million new registered Republicans, right? Amen to that. Isn't that good news? I just think that's absolutely fantastic. And of course, we're all familiar with the No Kings rally. They continued to call President Trump a king. Of course, if he was a king, he'd have the government open. The government would be open right now. Does anybody see the irony with that? If he was a king, the government would be open. Of course, these are just people suffering with TDS, aka the Trump derangement syndrome. Well, South Korea president heard about all this nonsense and this no king stupidity, and he gifted President Trump a golden crown and some type of king-like necklace you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. I'm going to blow this up, and we'll listen to this for a second. To me, it's funny.
The celestial gold crown symbolizes the divine connection
See that on the right?
between the authority of the heavens and sovereignty on earth, as well as the strong leadership and authority of a leader.
I'd love to see him put that on. It'd be funny if he just took and put it on his head. I love it. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure President Trump will actually be able to keep these gifts. I believe there's like a $400 and some limit on gifts that a president can keep. Anything above a certain threshold. There he is. All right. Anything above a certain threshold, I believe he has to give to the National Archives or whatever. There are rules pertaining to this, but still, it's a nice gesture, to put it bluntly. I thought it was extremely, extremely interesting. So, what do you guys think? Pretty good time for President Trump as of right now. I think he is rocking it and kicking it. And I'll have a lot more to say about that, hopefully later on this week. So, folks, I'm going to start landing the plane right now. And I want us always to remember our fight isn't just about the political. It's also moral. It's spiritual. It's patriotic. We're standing at a crossroads in our nation right now. The weak will make excuses. The cowards will hide behind the rules. And the corrupt, well, they'll keep trying to twist the truth and lie. But us, as free-minded patriots, we will never back down. We cannot back down, ladies and gentlemen. We have to stand with President Trump. We have to stand for America. It's absolutely necessary at this particular time in our country's history. So, the verse I have for you as we depart here is from the great book of Isaiah 41:10. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Amen to that, right? So, my friends, take heart. Don't grow weary. Don't lose faith. Don't ever let the darkness make you forget whose side you are on. And of course, that's God's side. That's America's side. That's the side of truth and freedom. So may God bless you, your families, your health, everyone in your household or in your privity. May God's blessings be on each and every one of you. And of course, may God bless the United States of America. I do appreciate each and every one of you taking time to be with me today and listening to what I have to say. I do not take it for granted. I'm very humbled by you being here. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, of course. I like to always make sure I say before I leave that keep that mind free, never give up. And until next time, my friends, I am J.R. Dukes.